Hello, everyone. If you are joining, Allison is going to be talking about her experience with semaglutide, one of our clients, and she should be joining us shortly. So she should be here in a moment. Thanks for joining, Shelby.
Can you see me?
There she is. Oh, look we did it with ease
First time
this time.
with 1 minute.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay. Now
Welcome.
Now
Allison.
I feel like I'm closer. I feel like I'm way closer to you than I was in our test, but it's okay. We're good.
All right. Can you see me okay? Can you hear me?
I
We're all
can.
good?
Can you see me?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we'll give it a minute to let people join since we were going to start right at the top of the hour. I'm so used to meetings starting late. That's the way it was in corporate America, right?
Oh my gosh.
Allison,
Meetings for
started
meetings.
your job.
I did. I've used the excuse 7 days in. I'm 7 days in, people.
I'm new here. You get to use that for a while.
I plan on it.
All right. Well, it's the top of the hour, so I'm going to get started. Hopefully we have some other people joining in, but I wanted to welcome Allison back. She joined me last June. I can't even believe that much time has gone by, but that was part one of Allison talking about her weight loss journey, which has been not weeks, not months, but years.
Yes.
And she's had some great experience over the past 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
So what I'm not going to do is go back into all of her history. If you'd like to go back and look at that June 2023 interview part one, you can see kind of the backstory. And where I'd like to pick up, Allison, is just talking about, I think that was in June, and we knew that there would be a part two. And when I had my Instagram post promoting the live tonight, I definitely talked about you jumping on the semaglutide bandwagon. So
Right.
that's where I'd like to pick up. And I'll just say briefly that Allison was a group coaching client several years ago. And then most recently, she has, we'll have periodic sessions, but she has a whole treatment team. She has a whole tribe helping her out, which I'll have her talk about that as well, because that's been a big part of her success.
I call it my health village.
Your health
village.
Yes, it takes a village. Hillary Clinton said that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess the biggest thing is there are a lot of people out there who may be really frustrated with things that they've tried. They may have tried intermittent fasting. They may have tried Whole30, all of these different things. I've tried several of those things in the past. What made you start semaglutide?
Right.
And how long have you?
Okay, so we won't go all the way back into everything that I did preemptively, but from part one of this interview, we remember that I had lost 60-some pounds after my doctor had told me I was going in the wrong direction. She was worried for my health. She was afraid that I would die if I got COVID before there were any vaccinations, because I was so heavy. I was considered morbidly obese. Mm-hmm. And so I did it the old fashioned way, right? Like there was no diet. It was literally taking small incremental steps, logging food, working with a cognitive behavioral therapist, working with a nutrition coach, walking with friends. And I lost 60-some pounds doing that. And then what happened was I stalled out. So I plateaued, which is a very common thing for people to happen. Knowing that my goal was 100+ pounds. I wasn't close to my goal yet. And I'd actually talked to my cognitive behavioral therapist, who's actually a weight loss management. Like that's his main focus is weight and weight management. And he had said to me, like, you're a perfect candidate for semaglutide. He's like, have you thought about it? And right around the same time, I had talked to my doctor about it. And I said, I'll give it a shot. And plus, I knew some people who had been very successful recently. I'd asked them what they did to look the way they did now. And the answer was repeatedly semaglutide. And so I decided to go and see a nurse practitioner and who had been on it herself. and we talked about a lot about the parameters and the side effects and all the, all of the things, right? And I started that a little over a year ago at this time, which
Okay.
brought me to about a total of 90 pounds weight loss to today.
Congratulations. Incredible.
Thanks.
That's amazing. And
Not done. I'm
I
not done.
know. Oh, well, and thank you so much for bringing up. I think that was a really important part of the backstory, which I neglected to bring up, is that during COVID, when, like you said, before the vaccines, when your primary care doctor said to you, I think what you said in the part one interview was she pulled her mask down
Mm-hmm.
and she said to you, I'm worried that you're going to die of COVID if you don't lose weight.
Correct.
And that's how she started the interaction. And she proposed gastric bypass. And you know, I think you said an F word.
I did.
You said, yes.
We've known, her and I have known each other a long time.
And I want to do this my way and I want to do it myself. So I think that, that was a wake up call, which I think happened to a lot of people during and after COVID. So, that's great. So it sounds like you did a lot of research. You knew other people who were taking it. You went to a trusted practitioner. And just for full disclosure, Allison and I will have sessions periodically, and she told me she was considering semaglutide. And I was very hesitant because I, at that time, hadn't had any clients who had been on semaglutide yet. And I needed to do more research. And so Allison was really ahead of me on the research game.
Right.
And, I've really been delving into the clinical trials, the package insert, like all of the information from the manufacturers, going to trusted medical sources. And I believe that this drug is incredibly effective. And if it's used in the right population and you're getting oversight from a nurse practitioner like you are, and they're monitoring your weight loss, checking for side effects, that this is an incredibly effective tool for weight loss. And
I agree.
So I want to thank you for helping me shift my focus. And in fact, Allison said to me, Gwen, I feel like there are people out there who need additional guidance. Like I've needed guidance and I've gotten guidance from you in addition to my cognitive behavioral therapist. You should look into supporting people with this.
For sure.
So, and now I have a couple of clients who are currently taking semaglutide, and I've found that I've been helping them with insurance things, side effects, what happens if they can't get the first medication in that class. So it's been really helpful. So, so you hit a plateau, you went on it, then you hit a plateau, then kind of walk us through once you started taking it. Were there any side effects? How long did it take you to start losing weight? Because I know a lot of people lose at different rates. Like some people can be on it for 2 months before they lose anything. Another person could start losing after a week. So
and I did not lose it first.
Okay.
So I think I went on it I probably got the prescription filled in January. I waited until after I went on a vacation. And then knowing that there might be side effects that I'd heard about from a GI perspective, and waited till I got home. So February, around this time last year. And I did not have instant results. So I did not experience like a lack of hunger. I didn't expect any I didn't have any side effects either, but I wasn't any less hungry. So I wasn't experiencing what other people talked about at the lowest dose.
Okay.
And so I call it, and I know that this is not a technical term, but I call it like my loading dose. Like it didn't do anything for me. And then I incrementally started to go up. And as I started to go up, I experienced a great difference in hunger, a lack of hunger. Plus, on top of that, I also experienced side effects. And so I definitely saw that all of a sudden, like the way that I looked at food, and we can talk about, I know you and I have talked about it, but the other things in my life too, but the way I looked at food, even coffee, things started to not be as appetizing to me. The flip side is I was nauseous. I did have some GI upset. It slows your whole, and I know you've done a ton of research, so you understand, but it basically slows your gastric emptying. It's telling you up here you're not hungry, but it's also actually slowing it in your gut. So there's a lot going on that you have to get used to. So I would say I started to lose weight because you slowly titrate up, which titrate just basically means you're going up in dose over time to get to a place where it actually works for
Right.
you. And so I probably started losing weight in April of last year and continued slowly but surely. Didn't do any, you've heard, I'm sure there's all kinds of stories out there about people having major issues with it. I think a lot of times that's because they're titrating too fast.
Right.
But slowly but surely, I lost about 1 pound to 2 pounds a week. And you and I would talk about that at the time. You'd say, like, how's it going? And until I went off of it. So I lost a significant portion of weight from like probably April on until about whenever I went off of it, October-ish.
Okay. So when you titrated up to the higher dose, how long were you on the lowest dose before your nurse practitioner brought you up to the dose?
So I feel like everybody's different, and it all depends on who you're going to and which drug, because there's a lot of drugs now in the class, and that's going to keep happening. There's just going to be more and more drugs.
Right.
But I feel like I spent 4 weeks on the lowest dose, maybe a little bit longer, and then started going up. And I probably stayed at the next because, then as you run out, you have to pay for it again. So I think I stayed at the next dose for quite some time. And then the vials get bigger. So as time goes on, you're getting more and more drug because your body starts to get used to it. And so you have to find your steady state where you are still losing a healthy amount of weight at times. We're not talking like 5 pounds a week. We're talking 1 pound to 2 pounds a week. So yeah, I would say I went up in dose probably 4 times over the course of that time. And it was anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So it just depended on how it was working for me.
Okay. And what did you do to manage those side effects? Were there any like little things that you did, like time of day you took the dose, or did you have to take like an anti-nausea medication?
I did not.
Okay.
No. And like anyone who's been pregnant, you've experienced nausea most likely with your pregnancies. I did the same stuff with nausea. By the way, it subsides. So like I absolutely, like, just a side note, I believe that this drug is a miracle. And I actually think not just for weight loss, but for a whole host of things, but we can get into that later. But like I at first was extremely nauseous, just like, my second pregnancy, I was extremely nauseous for the first trimester. I sucked on a lot of candy. So like meaning like a sugar-free like lozenge or like even a peppermint. And I chewed gum, anything. And like I sipped a lot. Of beverages.
Okay.
And then over time it subsided. So over time my body got used to it, which I was told would happen, and it did. Now you titrate up another dose when you start to not lose weight anymore, then that comes back a little bit.
Right.
And so you start to learn to manage it. I would say I gave myself a shot. Now, mind you, there's pill form now too, but I still am in an injection situation. I gave myself a shot at nighttime so that if it hit me right away, I had 8 hours of sleep.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
In between. And then usually I would say to people so every week you get a shot in my case. And every week, I would say the first 48 could be hard while you were getting used to it. And then over time, it would get less and less. So like, I feel it's completely manageable, especially to save and change your life.
Right.
That's how I look at it. I know that there are people who have felt it was significant, but that's why also, like, I know people who have been on it long term now, and they've switched it up and they've gone on they've gone on Manjaro or another, I think there's 3 or 4 now, maybe more. So like people have tried different things, and different things have worked for different people.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing for our audience to keep in mind, is that one medication in the class, and this goes for any class of drugs. Allison and I both have a pharmaceutical background, so we know a little bit about this, but there are multiple medications in one class, and one might work for one person, but not the, and like an SSRI or an antidepressant is a perfect example of that. Somebody responds to Paxil, but they don't respond to Zoloft. And
exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who's thinking about going on it? Let's just skip to that. What would your advice be to them? Like, who do you think this drug is for? You called it a miracle drug.
I do.
So
I think
are
it's
there
a miracle.
people who shouldn't be taking it, do you think?
Absolutely. I tell this to people all the time because people obviously ask me what I have done. And I think it's funny because everyone automatically thinks you've either like gone on keto or something, or I've only taken the drug, or I've had a gastric bypass. When you've lost this much weight,
Mhm.
that's what people assume, right? And
Right.
it's not bad. It's a multi-pronged approach if you're going to be successful. But someone who wants to lose 10 pounds should not go on this drug.
Mhm.
This is a life-altering drug. So it is for people who are considered obese and have other risk factors, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And we all know if you are morbidly obese, all of your risk factors go way up
That,
across the board for a heart attack,
yes.
for a stroke. And like, let's even talk about functional stuff. I could barely get off the floor after reading a book with my kids,
Right.
right? And like, I was afraid of being able to fit on an airplane. I was afraid of being able to fit on a ride at Disney World. I didn't want to feel that way anymore, right?
Right.
So like any of those reasons are reasons to go on this drug. The desperate housewives who started out thin to begin with, they should not be on this
Right.
drug. But that's just my opinion. So I think it's for people who have a significant amount of weight to lose, but also recognize that this is not it's a miracle, because I think it's going to change the way addiction works, how treating addiction works. I
Yes.
really believe that. I can't speak intelligently to all of it because I'm not a scientist, but I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. But I really think it's for people who have a significant amount of weight to lose and have tried other things and they haven't worked,
Mhm.
and want success long term.
Right.
But it doesn't come without, like I said, there's
Okay.
side effects, there's a cost,
Mhm.
and also like adjunctive care, my village. We need to do a lot of different things or it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not just a miracle and you take this shot and you're done. You
Right.
still have to manage what you eat. You still need to exercise, and you still need to get this straight, because I've heard of plenty of people who eat over it, meaning they're not hungry. They know their body's like, I'm not hungry, but they eat the food in front of them anyway. They're not listening to the cues, right?
Right.
So you have to have a multi-pronged approach or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think that is really important. Allison, I just had another client who I talked to last week, a former client. She was in a different group program than you were, and she went on Wegovy after she was in my group program. And she's like, if I hadn't learned the basics about exercise, like resistance training, that I needed to eat protein, and she hadn't developed those habits first, she didn't think she'd be as successful on Wegovy. What are your thoughts? Like, if you started, with
Yeah.
semaglutide, do you think you'd have the same results? Like, if that's where you started, instead of building these habits incrementally and having
So
your
I don't think I would be, well, we'll talk about it because I went off of it.
okay,
So, I mean, do I think I would have been as successful? Maybe up front, because I know people who hadn't done all of the other things I'd done first went on it and was successful. The common denominator is anyone I know, including yours truly, when we've gone off of it and we don't have we don't have our village and we're not utilizing all of our different tools, the weight is going to come back. Like I've heard repeatedly. As a matter of fact, I just had a meeting about it. I'm still in healthcare, where my CEO said it doesn't work. Oh, it works.
Mhm.
But you have to have the other tools in the box, right? And if you don't have those, I don't know. I think it works short term, but if you don't have this straight, like meaning your mental game straight
Mhm.
for it, right? And it's not just about wanting it. I love when people talk about willpower. That's not what I mean. I mean training your brain to have a different relationship with food, right? And then if you don't have the nutrition part, like that's where you come in, like recognizing what is going to keep you fuller longer, what is a good beneficial food to put in your body versus, like when we talk about alcohol or when we talk about Cheetos, right? Like, but if you don't have those things, and if you don't have exercise, if you don't get out and move, you're not going to be successful long term,
Right.
no matter what. So you have to have all of it. So I would say short term, it probably would work for anyone.
Right.
But long term, if you don't utilize other tools in your village of health, your health village, you're not going to be successful no matter what. It doesn't matter what you take.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, yeah, the village, I think that's
My health
so important, right?
village.
Sometimes people think they have to white knuckle it by themselves, and it's hard
No.
for people to ask for help. And, I think you mentioned in part one that accountability was kind of the biggest piece to it.
Right.
And the examples you gave are, I'll just give people a little lead in what you're doing in addition to the medication
Right.
as you can. So I call that the self accountability. And then you have the accountability of like your primary care doctor who you go back and visit, obviously Brad, your cognitive behavioral therapist,
Yeah.
me on occasion now because you're kind of in maintenance mode, you're close to your goal. And
Close.
then, I think it's that external accountability, but you've got to have the intrinsic
Right.
accountability with yourself. And that is the mindset piece, because I think people are still taking it when they don't do the mindset work, and they're still afraid. Not only are they pushing through the hunger, but they're afraid to go off of it, or I'm not losing fast enough. It's like they're still anxious and they're not working through those
Right.
underlying causes of what got them to where they are in the first place.
Totally.
And
And let's even say this, like to piggyback off of this and how important all the other parts of my health village, right? Like all my tools is I went off of it in October, and I went off of it like it was financially driven, financially motivated, because my insurance does not cover it. And so I decided to try to go it on my own from late October until January, basically.
right.
And when I finally went back to go get my prescription, so I gained weight. That's the bottom line. I gained weight.
Hmm.
But my nurse practitioner said to me, I am shocked you've only gained 5 pounds. People will come back after 2 months having gained 20 pounds. Well, I'd only gained 5 pounds because I had all those other tools.
Yes.
Right. So like I was still logging my food. I was still, and when I started to recognize that the scale had gone up a little bit, that was when I need some help. I need some reinforcement. So I'm going back to it. And I've started to come back down again, and I'm on my loading dose again. So I don't feel an extreme difference in hunger yet. But I will say, I think that those other tools saved me from rebounding, because we all know a lot of people go on some diet, they lose 50 pounds really fast, and then they go right back to their old life, don't make long-term changes, and then they're right back where they started within months, or they've gained more, which was always my MO. This is the first time in my life that having incremental changes over time, 4 years, that I've been able to maintain a weight loss ever. And I'm 46 years old. So like, it just goes to show you that having all of these different things and doing them consistently, like any other facet of our life, that's what makes the difference.
Hmm.
But it took me to like 40 something to figure that out. I don't know why I kept thinking that going on crash diets were going to work, but
Well, because that's what diet culture tells us, right?
right.
It's in our face all the time, and we're looking for hope that the next time it'll work, and maybe this one will be the right one. And I think until you talk to somebody, or you do enough research, or you get the support you need, you don't realize that. And
Right.
so all of that hard work that you've done is paying off, and that's fantastic. Like, I think it's important for people to know that yes, you could gain some weight back. So that leads us to kind of the maintenance plan. So you're kind of going back up to your loading dose so you can reach your
Yeah,
goal.
I restarted.
So,
Yeah. And I'm starting to go up a little bit at a time.
okay. So let's say you've hit your goal weight, whatever you want that to be, or a certain number of pounds lost. What's the maintenance plan? Like, it might change over time. Like in 2 months, you might say, Gwen, I changed my mind. But today, if I asked you, you've hit your goal weight, you're feeling great. What do you think? Who is part of your maintenance plan? Who's the
Right.
village? And then do you stay on the med at a very low dose, or what?
That's my plan.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will log my food until I die. So I will never change and I will get on the scale even when it hurts. So like those are two things that I had to change my mindset
Right.
about. I used to stop both when I would eat too much. I would stop getting on the scale. And I know people have a love hate with the scale. For me, it
Right.
works. It just all depends on who you are. I'm not saying some people, it's too much for them, and so they weigh once a week. I weigh daily. It's not a one size fits all thing, right?
Right.
So I will never stop logging, and I will never stop weighing myself, and I will never stop walking. Those are the three things. So I'm going to pay attention to what I'm putting in my mouth. I'm going to move my body.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, it's been less in the last couple of months because we've had job changes and all kinds of other stuff, and it's winter in Wisconsin. And I'm never going to stop weighing myself, because I never want to be told by a doctor again that I'm afraid you're going to die because you're too heavy. I never want to be told that again. So, and I want to see my grandkids. Like we all have kids late. So like, I want to make it. I want to make it to my 80s or 90s. So I'll never stop any of those things. We've talked a lot about, so I know a couple of people who've lost 100 plus pounds on semaglutide and are still on a low
Mhm.
maintenance dose.
Mhm.
The nurse practitioner that I see um, when I get my prescription refilled, she has also been on a maintenance dose for 3 years, for quite some time. So she had lost weight up front and now she's on it. Everyone does it
Yeah.
differently, and she works with everyone in her practice, but there's many people who do it differently. But I will say, I think the most successful people will have to stay on this drug lifelong. Now, I mean, again, that could change over time, but as of
Yeah.
right now, I plan on getting to the point where I lose the rest of this weight.
Mhm.
So 20-ish pounds. And then, and it like, it used to like, I used to give myself, that's another thing we need to just remind everyone
Yeah.
is I used to give myself like goals, like dates, like deadlines. Stop doing that. It's your life.
Yeah.
Like just stop. I'm going to lose all my weight in a year. No, you're not. Just lose the weight, right?
Yeah.
Like live your life. That's the other thing. I haven't stopped living my life. I still have cocktails. I still eat what I want, not whenever I want, but I still enjoy my life fully, but it's in smaller increments, right?
Yes.
But yeah, like no deadline. It's my life. And I
Yep.
just think that I may change my mind, but as of right now, I feel like all of those tools, having someone in my life who can help with nutrition, having someone who can talk to me through some of the mental stuff, right? Someone that will walk with me. I have lots of friends who will walk with me. And then having this drug that I can't ever see changing, because when I
Yeah.
went off the drug, I like it definitely made
Yeah.
a negative impact.
Yeah. And this is no different than people being on maintenance doses of other medications
Exactly.
for, blood pressure, for cholesterol,
Absolutely.
for diabetes.
Right.
Um,
And
I mean, yeah, one of
let's
the
not
things,
forget all of those diseases you just
yeah,
mentioned. Many of the people that have them are
correct.
obese. So like so another thing you and I have talked about ad nauseum, I could do days worth, right? On treating the symptoms instead of treating the cause, right? The cause of a lot of this stuff. Now there are people obviously who cannot help the cholesterol, cannot help the blood pressure, cannot help having diabetes, right? It's not necessarily nutrition
Hmm.
that's causing and weight gain. It's not causing it. But I will say, like, if we start to treat our bodies in a way that systemically we know that being a healthier weight keeps us from having comorbidities, other
Right.
illnesses, keeps us less inflamed, less likely to get sick, right?
Yep.
A healthier immune system. Why would like we should that should be taught and instead of teaching geometry, they should be teaching this,
Yeah.
right? Like they should be teaching what are the ways to keep people healthy, right? I mean, that's really what it is
Yeah.
for life.
Absolutely. I
And
mean,
as I've told you many times, a shrink, a shrink should be it should be like assigned to you when your social security number was
I
assigned
love
to you.
it.
Like because that you need an impartial party to keep you honest and keep you real and start working through here.
That
And so like this just all a part of it.
yeah.
And there's I love when people have said to me, "Do you feel like you've taken an easy way out with this drug?" No, I want to live till I'm 90.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking it from other people because I'm not even getting it from like I'm not getting my insurance covered by it. So there's
Why
plenty to go around.
yeah, why do you think people look at it as, taking the easy route or you're cheating or I've heard this and I- I'm having trouble understanding where that comes from. What do you think that is?
Because I think what happens, like anything else, we look to like media, right? We look to celebrities. And like that is like our example, right? And yeah, like a desperate housewife who had no weight to lose. Now she's lost 20 more pounds and is like basically close to her birth weight. And I think people think like that's ridiculous. That's the easy, like, why do you even do that? Right? Like we use like very impractical people to like think of if you think about it logically, just like you said, like we've said this about antidepressants, right? If you have high blood pressure, you're not going to say I'm taking the easy way out by taking a drug. You're going to treat the blood pressure. It's the
Exactly.
same difference. It's the same difference. If you are morbidly obese, you are at high risk. And even obese, right? There's a
Yeah,
difference in a BMI calculator, but obese, morbidly obese, you have a higher rate of all kinds of things happening to you. Why not take something that can aid you in reducing the risk factors that can shorten your life?
There you have it. I agree.
And like, I think that, and I could talk all day about why I think it works better for some than for others. But I will say I would definitely put in my arsenal if I had a significant amount of weight to lose.
Yeah.
And I also would say that don't give up too easily. Like if you take it and it doesn't work right away, give it some time.
Yeah.
That would be my message, because I think I was frustrated at first that I didn't feel like anything happened. It just took a little longer for my body to respond to it.
Yeah. And Allison, I mean, I think, yeah, that's such a great point, because I remember in part one, you were talking about fitting into a bridesmaid's dress for a wedding. And
Right. That was one of my many diets and deadlines.
yeah, and deadlines.
Right.
And people have a milestone birthday or a vacation. And I think you've done such a great job, and it's finding ways to take the pressure off of yourself, right? Like trying to lose weight is already hard enough, and then we pile on these other rules, like food rules and diet rules, that make it almost impossible,
Right.
and we're making it so much harder on ourselves. So why give it a timeline? Just if you keep making progress and you keep consistent with your habits that are making you healthier, like what else are you going to do with the time? Like, this is your best chance at making a difference. So keep doing it,
Right.
talk to your provider, like find a provider. One of the things I'll say that I'll reinforce is that you found someone who had incredible experience with the medication, but also took it herself. Now, you may not find a lot of practitioners like that. I think you struck gold because they have
Yes.
personal experience.
She's good. Yes.
But making sure that, if your primary care physician, you go to your primary care doctor or provider and they say that they don't want you taking it, or they don't have experience prescribing it, and they don't talk to you about like a comprehensive plan or a comprehensive approach, which may include accountability or additional support, then you may need to find a different practitioner specifically who can help you with the GLP-1. And that's your prerogative. I mean, depending on your insurance, you might need to pay out of pocket
Right.
for that visit, but that gives you the confidence that you're going to somebody who knows what they're doing. They have the experience. They know how to manage
Right.
the side effects. They know
Right.
you're losing weight at a rate that is not unhealthy. Like too fast is not good, right? That's something we haven't talked about. I think people are always wanting, they give a timeline to their weight loss, and they want it to happen fast. Like I want to lose a lot of weight every week. And it is not linear. There are plateaus,
Right.
go up a little bit, then you come
4 years. 4 years.
forward.
It's 4 years. And I'm not at my goal, and it's okay. Like I feel so much better. And I'm gonna continue to feel good. Like that's the whole goal, and to live a long time.
Right.
And so, and I mean, there's so much we can't. So this is the other thing I've thought a lot about. There are so many things. Like if COVID taught us anything, there's so much we can't control in the world right now. Like there's so many things that are bad about the world, and we have no say in how it works, right? But this, we have things we can do to control it. So why not take advantage? Like, why not take advantage of all of the things to be our happiest and best and like, I'm not saying, like, I'm a big believer, if you are happy at a higher weight, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole thing is like, why not feel the best you can possibly feel? And why not do things for yourself that are going to give you the best chance of feeling good for as long as possible? Like,
No, it's fantastic. And I think you talking about 4 years, like how did you get past that? I think that would be really helpful for people watching this, because we think of the whole 30, that means 30 days, right?
right. And I think when I started the group coaching with you, I think I did whole 30. Like, I think I was in conjunction with that, being
Yes.
like, whole 30 is going to be my answer.
Right.
Okay. So wait, ask the question again.
So how did you get through,
Oh,
like, being okay with there's no timeline? And it sounds like you feeling better, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like how are you managing that and creating some patience and knowing that consistency in your changed habits is what is the most important thing while you're waiting for the drug to do its work.
So my therapist and I, we've known each other like way back. So we've both been in pharma. I was a pharmaceutical sales rep. I knew him as a rep. I ended up going to him because he was a part of this massive wellness center within Northwestern in Chicago. And he like would laugh at me when I came in because I was actually the thinnest of anyone who had ever walked in there, because typically the people that were coming in there were getting gastric bypass.
Okay.
So this was 20 years ago. And so he and I have known each other for 20 years, and we talk about this a lot. There was a chunk of time, which he likes to remind me, I really fell off the deep end in terms of my eating habits when I stopped seeing him, when I had kids and like my priorities changed,
Right.
and I wasn't focused on myself. Right. So we've talked a lot about like what changed in me. And I think, as I've told you, the wake up call was having someone tell me they thought I might die if I got COVID because I was so heavy and inflamed. Right. I think that was part of it. But I also think so it was like, it was scary. And I think that was a wake up call for me, right? I'd already felt other things. There were little things, like I've told you, physically were becoming hard. Day-to-day functioning was becoming hard. But it was also the fact that you start to see how many things you're missing out on because you're so heavy. And as you it's been hard, but at the same time, every pound lost, even if it took 30 days for me to lose 2 pounds, which was the case at times, like before, like there were times where I did not lose weight, like in 4 years, and I'm still not at my goal. But I just kept thinking to myself, this is better than the alternative.
Right.
This is better than going up. This is better than gorging on food until I'm sick and like feeling guilty about it. That's another thing. I used to be like, oh, I'm going to start February after Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm going to start like this whole thing, right? Or I'm going to start January 1st. What a joke. I'm going to I stopped doing that. Like, I was like, no. There's not going to be like, you're going to eat whatever you want through Christmas.
Right.
And then get back on the horse. No, you're going to be 10 pounds heavier if you eat whatever you want for Christmas, right? So it was like a shift of like, every meal is an opportunity. You and I have talked about that ad nauseum. There's no reason to put these like time-bound things on losing weight. Like, why do we do that to ourselves? I have no idea. I just think it's because of the diet culture we've already acknowledged. The diet culture that doesn't work. There is no reason for that. There is no reason at all to put anything, no time-bound things, and no I just think that like if you have a meal where you pig out, right? Like it's happened. It happens for you and you're a nutrition coach. I watched you eat a whole thing of gummies once, like a whole thing of gummy bears, my kids. And like at times you do it because of stress or for comfort or socialization, whatever it is, you get right back on the horse. Like, it's not, oh, I'm going to let this go now until April 1st. No, like you're going to feel this next meal, you're going to have a salad or you're going to take a walk, whatever it is, but get right back on it. And it's just a shift. It's taken little habits. What's that book that we read? Atomic Habits. Every little one makes a difference. If you try to do everything at once and you do this big keto diet or you do this Whole30 or whatever, typically you're going to fail because no one can sustain completely and utterly changing everything at the same time and like expecting long-term results. We wouldn't expect that in any other facet of our life.
Right.
At work, you don't make a million different changes in a day. You don't do it anywhere at work. It's incremental changes to get to a solution. It's the same thing here. And I just think I looked at it all wrong because that's what they sell you. They sell you like this cure, this miracle cure. That's not how it is. It's our life. It's our life.
Yeah, yes, Allison, great points. And I mean, some things I think are worth bringing up again on this call, but you mentioned in part one, because it all ties in, you've pointed to your head a couple of times for them. And, what I hear you doing is that you reframed the way you think about food and the way you talk to yourself is much more positive. And I'd like to give you an example.
Yes. You and I have gone back and forth about this for years. I mean, yes, for sure.
Allison used to say, but this is before Atomic Habits and before the group coaching program, she would say, I'm fat and I've never been successful, so I'll never lose weight. I mean, it
That
was like this.
is true, Gwen. That is
Okay.
true.
So I encouraged her to try to shift her
Change the
thinking,
narrative.
right?
Yes.
Change the narrative. And what her goal was when she finished that group coaching program was,
Oh my gosh, I forgot about
yeah,
this. Yes.
I want to be healthy and active.
Right.
Healthy and active person. That was her new identity. Now, she also tied a reason to it. One reason is what she mentioned earlier tonight, which is I want to see my grandkids. I want to live my happiest and longest life possible. Like, I encourage anybody who's watching this, if you're just saying you want to lose weight because you used to weigh that, or you need to do it, like, that's not enough to give you like the motivation. It's got to be tied into your core values of how you want to live
Yep.
your. And
Agreed.
another thing that Allison mentioned during that program was, I want to be able to get up off of the floor when I'm reading a book with my kids, like you mentioned earlier tonight. You want to be able to ride bikes with your two boys and not have to tell them no. You
Right.
want it to
Or
feel,
be embarrassed. Like
yeah,
I started to become
yeah,
embarrassed to be places. Right.
yeah. And
Hmm.
that takes acknowledgement and acceptance for where you are. And that can be uncomfortable. It can be painful. It can take you to a dark place. So I just want to commend you that you went there and you turned it around. You've shifted your perspective. You do have
Yep.
that,
And
you
let's,
know,
right.
yeah. And so many people will say things like, oh, I only lost 2
No.
pounds. But no, you've said, okay, I lost 2 pounds this week, but it's okay. Or maybe it went up,
Right.
like you
I
gained
gained
5
five
pounds,
pounds. I gained
you
5 pounds.
20. And it's so important for us to feel as good as we can when we're going through that journey, because it's already hard enough. So
Right.
find ways to celebrate even the smallest of things
Right.
that are going to help you feel better so you don't give up on yourself. And
Well,
I've seen that.
right. And that's the thing. Like, you and I have also talked about like why don't there's a lot. One thing I wanted to say about the healthy and active, which I forgot about. You are completely right. And I used to always say I want to be healthy and active, right? And come full circle last year, late in the year, my chiropractor said to me, I mean, I think you are healthy and active. Like I don't think you want to be that. You are now that. So
Yes.
claim that, acknowledge that. You don't have to be 125 pounds. You don't have to fit in a certain dress size. You are healthy and active. You make choices that are healthy and active, right? So that's one thing. So thank you for reminding me of that. And then, yeah, and I would say also, people, there's there's no timeline, there's no deadline. So take it as it comes, but just acknowledge little things that you do. It was hurting me to walk a mile. I was lapped. I would tell you this real time. I remember being like, another senior citizen lapped me at the track at the village center, like our cheap gym, right? Like they would walk twice as fast as I would. And I remember a woman who had a walker, and I think she had some sort of condition, but on top of it, she was very
Mhm.
heavy. And I said to her, if you don't give up, I won't give up. And like sometimes we'd walk together, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
I would slow down just for her. But the thing is like you just don't give up. You just don't.
Right.
And recognizing that little incremental changes, you can do it. You don't have to do huge things. And we've pointed out, like the heavier you are, the like really truly to lose weight, you don't have to make huge changes at
Right.
first. Like you can still eat quite a bit of calories. So it should be incremental. You shouldn't shock your system because then it doesn't hurt so much. And you're not, you, everyone looks at it as like taking things away from themselves. I've not felt that. That's a really good point. I've never felt like I was taking stuff away from me, like myself, for the first time ever. Like Jenny Craig, Seattle Suttons, Weight Watch. I always thought like, oh, I only have this many points, or I only have this, or I
All right.
changed that
That.
mindset too, right? Like all of a sudden I was like, I can have that cheeseburger, but then tomorrow I'm going to eat Brussels sprouts and salad.
Right.
Like, so I've looked at it completely differently than I ever did before. I'm not taking things away from myself. I'm balancing it out.
Right. Yeah. And I think I remember you saying that in part one too, that and this is, I always emphasize this, right? It's not about restriction. It's about choice. And
Hmm.
yes, you can have a hamburger. Can you have a hamburger every day, 10 times a day and lose weight? Probably not.
Probably not.
But it doesn't mean you can't have it ever. You can't, you can have some alcohol. You can do those things. And in fact, the more you incorporate those things, well,
Totally.
not more frequently, but the less you restrict and find
Absolutely.
a way to fit it into your calorie goal.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about that. That's freedom. That's you seeing I can still eat these things on occasion and have a good life, have a happy life, and lose weight. It,
And also, we don't need to tie, and like, we know there's a lot of different ways, right? I was making fun of your snowshoeing the other day, but there's lots of different ways to be happy in your life that don't have to revolve around food.
right.
Like, and I honestly think semaglutide helps with that because it's decreasing your hunger. Like, so we think we're hungry a lot of the times, right?
Mhm.
Like I've talked to you about the emotional tie to food for me. It
Yeah.
can be procrastination, as simple as being bored or procrastinating, right? To being upset, to being happy, to celebrating. Let's not tie it to food anymore.
Yeah.
Like yes, I acknowledge that, like, I will make choices where I want to go out to dinner and I want to have an appetizer, I want to have an entree, I want to have a couple bites of dessert. Then I've made allowances for that in the rest of my day, like calorie deficits, like, right? So like not doing as much breakfast and lunch because I know that I want to have a good dinner, right?
Yeah.
But I just really think tying your happiness or tying your fulfillment to food is also this part. We've got to stop. As a culture, we've just done too much of it. And it even comes down to, I'm really cognizant. My boys are big boys, and like not rewarding them with food. So
Right.
like, it's just a part of our life. Like, you can have dessert every day, but we're going to make other healthy
Yeah.
choices. And it's not going to be tied to you getting an A on a paper. And it's not going to be tied to you doing well in sports. Like, there is no food. Like, we have to stop that, because
Yeah.
that's a mindset. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. And that, I think that's so great. And what a great example you are for your boys that you're doing. Because, like you've said before on part one, food is not a punishment or a reward,
Right.
right? Food is nourishment, it's fuel, it's creating health, it's helping your mood, it's like doing a lot of things, right? And the more you can find ways to manage those, like whether it's stress or, happiness, like, yeah, you don't always have to go out to dinner. I mean, just to
No.
it doesn't have to include food and alcohol. You can go for a bike ride. You can
Right.
go to a
And
park.
I know people who know me are like, BS. She does not have as much fun if she is not like going out and having cocktails. But truly, one of the things that as soon as I could move my body more, I embraced the beauty of Wisconsin, which people are probably like, well, you're in California and I'm always jealous of you. But like, um, there are so many things to see and do that when I was heavier, I was afraid to do. Right. And
Yeah.
now I hike. I will go, like, yes, I fall, but I hike and I do all kinds of things that I had never done like before, because either I was too heavy and incapable, or I was embarrassed of like being seen the way that I was.
Right.
And that's really unfortunate, because that's not living a full life. So yes, I can give up a couple of cocktails or a giant piece of cake
Yeah.
to be able to live my life.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you have done, I mean, I am so impressed by you, inspired by you, and can't wait to see how it all ends up. Is there anything you want to share with people? Like, let's say they're thinking about going on semaglutide or one of the GLP-1s. Like, do you have any advice? I mean, you've given it all along this whole live, but any parting thoughts about what you would advice you'd give people
I,
before they start?
I would say if you have more than 20, 30 pounds to lose, that semaglutide is a key, um, it's a key tool
Mhm.
that if you have adjunctive care, so meaning you're watching your nutrition, you're moving your body, you have the supervision of a doctor, potentially I would recommend, as I said, I think you should get a social security number and a therapist at birth. So a therapist helps too, right? But all of those things, I think semaglutide, if you're even on the fence, try it and give it time. It took months for me to hit a point where I could lose weight.
Mhm.
but it will help you change habits that you've had a hard time of keeping. And that's like the best thing. Like you said it to me not that long ago. It's another tool in the toolbox, right? It's a great way of getting started and having some extra support when your body is used to having lots and lots of calories, because it's going to calm your body down and your brain down from being as hungry.
Right.
So I would say, don't even give it a second thought. And if you do have some side effects, there's ways to manage it, and they do subside with time. And
Great.
I do really, truly believe, and I know we don't have time for this, but I do believe that this class of drugs could and might just cure not just obesity, because it is a disease. It's not a choice. It's a disease.
Right.
I think it will also choose other disease or cure other diseases, or have the capability to cure alcoholism, drug addiction, and other addictions.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that at a different time, because that's not your wheelhouse, but it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
it's amazing what it does to your brain.
I know. No, it's, the one thing I like about it, it gives people, and I've heard this, where it turns down the food noise, right? So that's the brain part. And it gives you that a little bit of time to think about why you're eating the food.
Totally.
Right. And then your stomach emptying slower, right? The slow gastric emptying, that's letting your stomach tell your brain that you're not hungry. So I feel like that's a big part of people. It's just knowing how to slow that down. And that gives them like this little opening to work on their habits or their behaviors.
Totally.
And
I completely agree.
yeah. And I've seen, and heard about, addictions, like it may be used like in treatment centers for substance abuse. And, just it's obviously helping people not become diabetic, reversing diabetes. It's really, I've even heard of joint pain, that it helps, like in micro doses, people who have, inflammatory diseases like autoimmune diseases, it's helping. So I do think like we'll end up seeing some other benefits and other uses that the FDA will likely approve. Like you said, other medications in this class will be coming out, and we'll probably in the future, like additional maintenance strategies. And it's just doctors, providers trying different things to see what works best.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, I've had many doctors say to me, I diet and exercise. When I tell that to my patients, it doesn't work. For 40 some years, that didn't, it was someone telling me I was going to die. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that sometimes doesn't even work. And like, I would just say, yes, the GLPs are here to stay. Yeah. I think I think they're going to figure it out. I think there's going to be some fine tuning. I know people are afraid of injections. They're going to come out with pill forms. They're going to figure out ways to stay on maintenance. But I really think that they're a way of the future. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think it's a fad. It doesn't do any of the things that we've talked about, like speed and other things that people have taken in the past, like phentermine and all that other stuff. It doesn't have any of the negative effects other than the nausea and the sometimes GI upset. That is enough for me. That is enough for me to know that it is a tool that's going to probably be in my toolbox for the rest of my life.
Fantastic. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited for you. Glad you're back on it and you're loading up. And
yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, but I've got my whole life to lose the rest of this weight, so it's fine.
Isn't that great? How refreshing to have that. Right. I think that is a great way to close this out, that we have the rest of our lives. And you know what? I think that can be really depressing in one sense, but it can but it can also be back to the reframing. How exciting that, things change, right? New science comes out, new medications, new approaches. This is not static. It's like, okay, new things are coming out all the time. And we just have to be open to the fact that, hey, this is kind of exciting. You get to figure out what works best for you at any given point in time based on what your life looks like and how you want it to look. And
got it.
Yeah. So athlete or what is it? What's your identity again? I forgot.
Healthy and active.
Healthy and active.
I'm
Yes.
healthy and
Yeah.
active. And 4 years ago, before I started the coaching program and was trying every fad diet and had a deadline for a bridesmaid dress, but by the way, I had lost weight and gained weight back by the time the bridesmaid dress was on me. We've changed all of that, but it took 4 years, and it took incremental small changes, slow, and it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. There is no timeline.
I'm healthy and active.
Nobody's giving you an annual performance review on health.
Oh, thank goodness. I hope I'm done with those.
Healthy and active. Well, I'm glad you're living a healthy and active life, and you're embodying it and believing it, and that's who you are. So thank you for joining up and just being upfront about it. And I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it or admit it. And it's like, I think it just...
Oh yeah. There's lots of people who won't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like a secret, and I don't think it should be a secret.
Yeah.
You don't keep a secret if you're on a blood pressure medication or a cholesterol medication. Why would you keep this a secret?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it loses its power. I think, it's like, it's shameful if you try to keep it a secret.
Completely, like Botox.
It
doesn't matter. Yeah. I think it's share the wealth. I really believe that this is something that we need to share with people, just like the mental health stigma that we've been working on for years and years and years.
Right.
Like, I am not ashamed that I have a therapist who helps me retrain my brain and my thoughts. I also have a drug that is helping me retrain and the way that I think about food. It is another aid. And I would say to anybody, and if it's hard going up in front, give it time. Just give it time. And it might not be the first one. You might have to try another one, but something will work.
Right. And what you also said, Allison, was never give up. And I think
never give up.
I think we will end it there, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. Thanks for speaking from your heart and telling.
And for anyone who joined late, they can watch a recording, right? To see some of the other,
I'll be able to watch the recording. I'll be posting it to Instagram. So
thank you. I appreciate being on.
Bye-bye.
Bye.